Today you did more than cast a vote. You did more than choose a Democratic candidate for Congress. You did more than I ever could have imagined. You sent a message that was heard around our state and across the nation. That's right. A message that tells the NRA that their days of holding our country hostage are coming to an end. And their days of scaring Congress into submission on gun control are coming to a close.
Every state has 2 U.S. senators, but in terms of House members per state, that depends on population. Every 600,000 or 700,000 Americans get a member of the House to represent them. Small population states like Wyoming and Vermont get the minimum 1 member of the House, whereas the biggest population state, California, has 53 representatives in the House. All in all, your average congressional district has 600,000 or 700,000 people. And that is roughly the number of people in the district in Illinois that's going to hold the first congressional election since the presidential election. On the Republican side of that race, the candidate who appears to have won the Republican primary won it by 23 votes. 23 votes. Sounds like nothing, right? Until you realize that that's actually something like 2% of the total number of votes that he got. Because this district is so Democratic that if you run in the Republican primary, you can come in first place in that Republican primary, even if you get less than 1,000 votes in total. 600,000 people live in this district. And you can win the Republican congressional primary with 900-something total votes. The guy who achieved that, who appears to have won the Republican nomination, according to the Chicago Tribune, is a convicted felon who served nearly 20 years in state prison for burglaries, armed robberies, and aggravated battery. The state Republican Party is refusing to even comment on his victory. Anonymous Republicans admit that they will expend no national or state financial help to even try to elect him. The man who lost to him in the primary says, quote, "I've gotten to know Paul, and I like him, but Paul is a convicted felon." And Paul being the competition in this district, and the fact that this is this district, is why everybody expects that the nation's newest member of Congress is about to be the woman who just won the Democratic primary in this race against very long odds of her own. Joining us now for the interview, for her first national interview, is Robin Kelly, the Democratic candidate for Congress running in Illinois' now very famous 2nd congressional district. Thank you very much for being with us tonight. It's nice to have you here.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor.
I played those introductory remarks from you at your victory celebration because of the way that you talked about the NRA there. Do you think that the election you just won, this primary, is a sign that being for or against the NRA is a more potent political issue now?
I think because it was the only race going on across the country that a lot of people paid attention to it. And then what's been going on in Chicago as far as murders of really our next generation and then what's happened across the country. I think that many people did pay attention to it, and it is a message to the NRA that people are paying attention and they're sick of their influence.
Being from Chicago and the Chicago area, do you think that gun politics play differently in your district than they do nationally? And I ask because people are looking at your race and trying to extrapolate from your experience winning this race to national politics. Is there a difference people should understand about how issues like this resonate specifically in your district that might not be true elsewhere in the country?
Well, I think in the Chicagoland area, this has been happening for a while, and it's the nightly news. I mean, it's really ridiculous, and enough is enough. And I think that you hear more about the mass murders across the country, but I don't really think it's so different. It's just that it's a nightly event in the city and the surrounding area, and the country hears more about the mass murders. They don't hear about the nightly events, but now people are much more aware, especially since Hydea lost her life.
Did you know that Mayor Bloomberg's PAC was going to come into the race in such a big way against Debbie Halverson, your main opponent, and eventually on your behalf? Did you know that was going to happen?
I had no idea, but I look at it that he didn't really do it on my behalf. I look at it that he did it on behalf of families around the country, on behalf of mothers and fathers that have already lost their children.
Do you think that if you go to Congress, and it is likely, nothing's foregone, but it's likely that you will, given the makeup of your district and who your competition looks to be on the Republican side, What do you want to try to accomplish in Congress as a junior, as the newest member of Congress at this time in our country? What do you think you can do there to make a difference on behalf of those families you just talked about?
Well, definitely be an ally to the president and what he wants to accomplish. Also, work across the aisle. I used to be a state representative, and I worked across the aisle. I'm interested in, what is holding Republicans and maybe some Democrats back from voting for sensible gun control bills, and also recontacting the public that not only put me in office, but citizens outside of the 2nd Congressional District, too, to make sure their voices are heard.
Robin Kelly, Democratic candidate for Congress running in Illinois' 2nd Congressional District after winning that long odds primary this week. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Stay in touch.
Thank you.
This district in particular is ready for somebody new, right? It's in the sense that this district is long suffering. The last 3 people this district has sent to Congress have left in scandal and disgrace. Before Jesse Jackson Jr., the congressman before him, and the congressman before him both got in major criminal trouble while they were in office. And if they're going to be...
Friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears. We do not give up. Expect surprises. Subscribe.